Welcome to the Garner Town Council work session of November 25th, 2025. You know I love to brag about the beautiful days in Garner, and here's another one. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun is shining, the sky is blue. I'm just glad we're all here. That being said, I'm going to ask our Deputy Town Clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Gupton.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vance.
Here.
Councilmember Behringer. Councilmember Matthews.
Here.
Councilmember Dellinger.
Here.
Councilmember Singleton.
Not here. Councilman Singleton has asked for an excused absence due to a work emergency today. I checked with him on the phone, and Councilman Dellinger has requested to participate remotely. And as you can testify from his recent answer, he is with us today. So can I get a motion for these two council members to participate remotely and Councilman Singleton with an excused absence?
So moved. Second.
Okay, there's a move and a second. All in favor of allowing this flexibility, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, that passes. And it moves us right along to adoption of the agenda. We have a fairly brief agenda this evening, but we do need to officially adopt the agenda. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Matthews, a second by Ms. Behringer. All in favor, unless we need some discussion about the agenda, all in favor of adopting the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Thank A. That was 4 A's. We're all in with this remote participation. Technology is our middle name here at Garner Town Council, right? Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
4, okay. Any opposed by saying nay? Hearing none, that passes. And we get down to discussion items. This is part D of our agenda. And first up is emergency preparedness update. I'm going to call on Assistant Town Manager Matt Poole to introduce our presenter and the idea.
Thank you, Mayor Gupton, members of council. It's my honor to introduce our EOC director today. But before we do that, we felt necessary to talk about where we have come from regarding emergency preparedness with the town. So if you'll back up a few years ago in a previous life, as the fire chief, I would meet monthly with the assistant town manager at the time, Ms. Miller. And we would have monthly meetings to discuss the business of the fire department, town government, and she and I had a commonality in these discussions of emergency preparedness. She came from a background of Durham County where she was involved with the merger process, and so we began discussions behind the closed doors about how the town operates and how we're prepared for emergencies. She created a vision to improve that process by establishing an Emergency Operations Center committee to better prepare for emergencies. I think Garner historically has been very good in responding to these things, but mitigating them before they occur was something that her vision was to work on. So collectively, we formed an EOC committee. We started meeting monthly. That committee grew, but we needed a leader. We needed someone to lead, guide, and direct the planning of this process. And that group unanimously chose our inspections director, Paul Paget, who has a public safety background, understands local government. And so based on Ms. Miller's vision, we created a committee and we established a leader. And so I'd like to introduce Mr. Paget to come up and give a summary of from that point to where we are now, because it's my opinion that we've come milestones in disaster preparedness. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Paget to come up and give you an update on our EOC.
Good afternoon, council. Thank you for having me up. I'm up here today, as Mr. Poole said, as your EOC manager. It's a privilege to be able to help out with the group and take Ms. Miller's vision and move it forward with a great group of folks that we have. So we're just going to give you an update of where we came from, and what we've done and where we're going. So our focus is emergency preparedness. FEMA and DHS, they define preparedness as a continuous cycle. We don't have the ability to know when incidents are going to occur. If we did, we could pre-stage police officers, firefighters for that. Preparedness is making sure that we are prepared as a community to meet these needs when they occur. By doing that, we've got prevention, mitigation, protection, response, and recovery that go into play. Like Mr. Poole said, we're really good at the response side. Where we want to improve is the prevention, protection, and mitigation. So if we can look at the hazards that are out there for our community, be able to address those and put some steps in place, we may be able to prevent specific hazards. The other part that we work on within for our emergency preparedness is that recovery side. The quicker we can get folks back in their homes, back in the businesses, back into the community, the better off that community is going to be. Our path to today, our journey began with Manager Miller's vision with an EOC reboot. We've got quite a few of the EOC committee folks in the room. If you would, just raise your hand if you've helped out. And that was to establish our EOC that is there to support a large-scale incident. It doesn't tell folks how to do their job on the incident. It's there to make sure they have the tools they need. So we created the committee. We started looking at our staff that we currently have, what positions we need to fill within the EOC, and who's best suited for those positions. We also started looking at training requirements that we needed. We all have our training requirements that we do for our everyday responsibilities for the town, and this adds in an additional layer, and folks have taken on the training with great support. A lot of it we can do virtually. There's a couple classes where we have to do in person, and we've actually hosted 2 of those this year here in Garner. So currently we meet monthly to continue to work on the Emergency Operations Center. We've started transitioning into emergency preparedness and focusing on areas that we can help support in the community. So for those, just a recap of what an Emergency Operations Center is. It is a physical or virtual place where community and organizational leaders manage information and resources to support on-scene activities during an incident. Like I said in the beginning, the EOC does not tell the folks in the field how to do their job because they're right there. It's our job to make sure they have all the tools and resources they need to do it. There is a planning portion that occurs within the EOC, but that planning is around making sure that those tools are given to the folks in the field. A focus within the EOC is continuity of operations. If we have an incident in one portion of the town, it's going to require resources to go there. How do we backfill and make sure the other portions of the community are still provided those same services that they expect? A lot of times that's done with mutual aid agreements. Over a period of time, we may have to bring in additional staff, those type of things. The EOC helps coordinate response efforts. Duplication of efforts can occur during an emergency. We want to be able to grasp the need and make sure that we're being efficient and effective with the resources that we do have at the local level. That helps us figure out, do we need to ask for additional resources from the county or the state? Information management with Rick's group, making sure that we're getting all the information in, making sure that we're getting one message out. Resource management goes back to tracking what resources we have, recognizing at a threshold we're fixing to tap our resources and we need to ask for others. We want to know those thresholds up front before we get there. Planning and strategic development, looking at areas where that incident may start affecting other areas of the community, and can we get ahead of it? We also run the communications facility out of there, and also management of infrastructure that may be affected. So to date, since the onset of our reboot, we have had the EOC activated for both emergency and non-emergency incidents. So we've used it for the July 3rd celebration the past 2 years. This year, we actually incorporated an area command that was on site. And then another non-emergency incident, we used it for our December 7th holiday event. So our ability there was to again, support resources for the incident. We did open it for 2 tropical storms and then 3 winter storms over the fall or over the spring months. The winter, both the tropical storm and the winter, we were able to utilize both a physical and a virtual EOC to make sure that our folks were safe. Teams, we really lean into technology, so we're able to use Teams, SharePoint folders, that kind of technology to help us share information within the group, get together, make recommendations for the safety of our community. Training, so we started early on with looking at offering ICS 100, 200, 700, and 800 to all staff members. Those trainings occur online. It gives everybody the basic understanding of the ICS format, common terminology, organizational charts within the EOC or an incident. We've also had just shy of 50 of our staff go through the ICS 300 and 400, which we held on site. That is a week-long class to accomplish both of those. We were able to facilitate it with through Wake Tech, and we were able to use it so it built upon advanced learning. And then on Friday, we actually ran a tabletop exercise that was built around Garner. Additional trainings, we've hosted the senior official workshop over in the PD training room. We've had folks attend the Triangle Regional Integrated Warning Team Flood Workshop. There they rolled out a flood map that kind of predicts, as we're getting these heavier rains, of which areas may be impacted. It's in the beta form, but it was pretty cool to learn, and we've added it as a tool in our toolbox. We also sat through discussions about how to prepare for mega events, what challenges there are, how do we balance safety with fun. And then the last one is ICC when disaster strikes. So with all the natural disasters we've had over the past couple years, when I was in Cleveland at the ICC conference, it was a main focus on the recovery phase and making sure that we build in resiliency in the process. And they gave quite a few statistics. And the main one that I took away from it is if folks leave your community during a natural disaster, there's a slim possibility that they're going to come back. If they have to be relocated because their house was damaged, if that business has to be relocated or they shut down, there's a very slim possibility that they're going to come back to your community. So it was kind of changing an inspector's idea, since we're out usually doing the structure evaluations of from just completely saying, no, nobody can be in there. What can we do to make sure that it's safe so we can keep folks in the community, try and give them some stability while we continue to recover. Part of our EOC initial committee groups was looking at sites for our initial and primary and secondary locations. So currently, we have our primary location upstairs in the training room. We have Station 5 that has the facilities for us to use it as a secondary. And we also have looked at the ability of the PD training room as well. We're looking at making sure that we've got or able to have internet communication, redundant power sources, as well as security whenever we're looking at these. Additional technologies that we brought online. So we brought near maps in. We actually used it at the last ICS 300-400 training. So it gives us that flyover that's happens 3 times a year. So it's pretty current. It's within 3 to 4 months. And we were actually able to plot the incidents that were occurring during our tabletop on that map so that folks in the room could see it real time. We've also incorporated vehicle geotabs. Those have plenty of other positives. What it does allow us to do is during an incident, we could use that to track closest resource, kind of like PD and fire has for dispatching the closest unit. We could do that within a recovery phase or for clearing streets and different things like that. So it gives us a whole nother tool there to, again, manage our resources better in the field. And then we have embraced Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, those type of technologies to help with data. Our partnerships. So when all the way through this, private-public partnerships are necessary. So it helps us with resource sharing. We can do that with mutual aid agreements, comprehensive planning, looking at what hazards are out there, how are we addressing them, training and education. That's how we were able to get a couple of our training sites in there, was partnering with community colleges or other higher education establishments. Rapid response, it helps us coordinate our responses. And then community engagement and community outreach. Our path forward. So our future efforts will continue to enhance the community resilience. We're currently working on updating our town emergency operations plan. We're looking at the incorporation of an EOC design into a future building. We're working on resource inventories so that we know what we have and we can verify if we have 3 backhoes or if we have 5 backhoes, all through everything that we have within the town. We're going to continue to leverage technology where we can, expand partnerships throughout the community, look at additional community engagement, preparedness education for the community, and then training and drills for our staff. And that is a quick brief on where we came from and how we got here and where we're going.
Well, thank you for the overview. It's always important to talk about this stuff when we talk about emergency response. Clearly, we always think about fire, police, rescue, EMS, those things. Sometimes we forget about the engineering staff, public works, these other people who are first responders as well. It takes everybody putting their head together, not to mention the IT people that bring it all together. It takes a real team. So thanks for planning ahead. We won't be caught short at the time of our need. We have practiced this. You've had real life simulations. You've had real life incidents. I can't thank you enough for the work that you and your team are doing that. That being said, I'll turn to our council members here, see if there's other questions or comments. Mr. Vance, we'll start at your end.
Okay, yes, thank you, Mr. Padgett, and also Mr. Poole and
to the town manager for the restarting of the EOC. Question pertains to disasters. For example, years ago, we had the explosion out at the site on Jones Sausage Road. Is that considered part of the EOC operations coming together?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. Yes, sir. It's not just like natural disasters. It's to take into account any incident that could affect our community, and how we can quickly support that.
And to echo Mr. Vance, so a real situation several weeks ago, the shooting at Wake Med Hospital. It happened on a Saturday, so we met collectively as public safety in the manager's office, because if they were going to evacuate that hospital, we were considering standing up the EOC to make sure our departments were looked after, what resources the hospital will need. Luckily, we didn't have to go to that magnitude, but even in events like that now, that these conversations are occurring, that what do we need to do to prepare? And that was a very recent situation where Ms. Miller, we actually had conversations collectively as a group, do we set up the EOC or not?
Okay. One last question as it relates to storms. For example, if a hurricane hits, is it safe to assume there's a location that's sturdy enough to continue operations in the EOC in close proximity?
Yeah, this facility would stand up.
It's storm tested and
Yeah, I
be
mean,
able to move
it's a
forward
type
with
1
generators
building.
and everything else to keep
Yes, sir.
communications and everything going.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good. That's all I got.
Ms. Behringer.
I appreciate the report. It's wonderful to be knowledgeable about what you're doing and the steps that you've taken to. We appreciate your hard work.
Very good report. I remember it was a Sunday, it was about a year or two ago when the tornado came through and hit real quick. It's always unexpected things. And having that available, I remember back a few years prior to that, when the tornadoes came through Raleigh. And at that time, I was a Wake County commissioner, and I got to see that EOC at another level. Interesting thing, at that time, they had all the TV screens in there, and but all of them were blank and snowy. I said, "What's the problem?" He says, "Well, the cable has been cut." I said, "Do we have any off-air antennas?" No, sir, we didn't think about that. But that was a lesson learned, because they couldn't see what was going on out there. But it's a very important thing. Let me ask you this. Far as activating the total group, or you just kind of activate it on as needed, whatever the situation is, that pretty much it?
So we evaluate each incident or a special event as it's coming up, and talk amongst the EOC kind of leadership staff and to see where we need to go. If we move into an activation where we're monitoring the situation, it's usually where I'm monitoring it and passing out information. And then if it gets to where Garner's going to be affected, we can always take that next step up. But we try to use data to support the next activation level.
Do we have all of our buildings on the main campus generator backed up?
They will be when 109 comes online. Yes.
So they are not right now?
So everything we have has generators.
Okay.
Yep. So town hall, PD,
Gotcha. Okay.
109 will have it, Public Works, fire.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Dellinger.
Yeah, excellent information, and it's really good to see sort of the practice around the preparedness. My comment or question is sort of around the community outreach and the expanding of the partnerships. And just in other disasters, sometimes what you see is, especially when there's a protracted period of the disaster and the recovery period, you see a lot of community organizations that step up and engage and collect food or distribute food or supplies, or people just want to volunteer. And I think if you haven't already, sort of thinking about that sort of next stage of outreach to the community, so that some of these larger organizations, I think like churches especially, tend to mobilize in an effective way during disasters and in the immediate wake of a disaster where people could be without power or water for days or weeks sometimes. So I think if it's not already being done, sort of another phase would be to sort of touch points with these organizations to sort of, loop them into sort of what a response or being a distribution center for something would be. And just again, to Mr. Vance's point, after hurricanes, everybody who's not affected wants to help. And sometimes your emergency responders are as affected as the residents. And so it takes a real community effort to sort of get everybody together. And so the more proactive we can be with reaching out to these organizations to sort of who's your contact person in the event of X, and how do we assemble you and get you looped in when resources are kind of spread thin. I think that'd be interesting to hear about at a later date too. Another question or comment: what conversations have sort of been had with our state and county partners with regards to larger scale disasters that under normal circumstances would merit a federal disaster declaration and sort of an equivalent to federal response? And what are there conversations around what to do or what the plan would be if there's a protracted response event and there's not that sort of level of federal assistance?
Yeah, so I'll address it in two responses. The first, we're definitely working the recovery side into the partnership, and we can add that into our emergency operation plan to help give guidance, create contact lists. That's a great point. The second, so anytime it expands outside of Garner, we're going to coordinate through Wake County, and they make requests to the state. It was interesting in Cleveland. The first conversations that came up was, what's FEMA doing? And they ICC reminded us very quickly that FEMA is there to help with funding. It's really the local organizations that are there to help with the response and recovery. So they said FEMA's not going away. We may just see it differently moving forward.
Two other points, Mr. Dellinger. So regarding local resources, last year, Manager Miller requested we establish a hotel in town. So we established communications with the True Hotel in case we needed staff lodging. They are under contract with the North Carolina State Highway Patrol. So we partner with that hotel in case we need that type of situation. We're also having conversations about the rec center being a central resource in the city limits for water buffaloes, resources, and things like that. So those two areas, as we're talking about community partners and locations, we've been discussing that. And regarding the formality of these, Wake County, it was on your consent agenda a few weeks ago, was they were updating their mutual aid plan, program partner plan. And so those documents, Wake County does a really proactive job, and we've partnered with those. So all of those contracts prior to fire merger are now up to date.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Yes,
Vance?
in reference to the readiness, is it safe to assume that there will be periodically no-notice tests of the EOC to go into action with a particular skeleton crew to make sure that everything is operational for emergencies that may pop up?
Yeah, as we're building out that portion, yes, sir.
Okay, other questions, comments from council? Hearing none, any closing remarks, Mr. Poole or Mr. Padgett?
Just thank you for the continued support, and thank you, Ms. Miller, for the vision.
And thank you for the hard work and trying to see the future and be prepared. We thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
And that brings us to item 2 under discussion items, which is the 2026 legislative agenda preview. Our Assistant Town Manager, John Hodges, is going to give us a little background on that and an introduction.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. The North Carolina General Assembly began its 25-26 biennium session in January of this year. We're roughly about halfway through that 2-year session. During that session, as you're aware, there has been legislation that did impact our ability to move our ETJ expansion forward. The session has also not come to a close, but it has slowed its progress, and there has not been a state budget adopted. The legislature currently has a calendar that establishes dates for the months between now and April, when they would reconvene for the short version session, half of the biennium, so that they may come back and take care of business should it be needed. So they have not technically adjourned the long session, but it is sort of on pause for now. Ahead of that session beginning, we drafted a legislative agenda of things we thought were important to garner, and we shared that with council, received your input, and your approval to move forward with that. We used that in the early days and months of the session to inform our delegation and other legislators about things important to garner. And periodically through the session, we came back, made some additions to it, added some specificity to it, especially when there were specific bills that we wanted to draw attention to support or to oppose. And that document served us well. But as we head into what is often referred to as the short session half of the session next spring, we wanted to start drafting and making updates to our legislative agenda. So what we're doing today is bringing to you an initial draft outline of what we think would be a legislative agenda that we could use for the second half of this session that will begin roughly in the springtime, around the April timeframe, unless something changes with the legislature's calendar. So we've taken the legislative agenda from the first half of the session, and we've made some tweaks to it that we think would be relevant for the time and what has elapsed since we originally presented it. So the way we laid this out, and this is in your packet and on your screen, was to start with local initiatives. So these were 2 initiatives that we were hoping to seek local legislation for. The Town of Garner's Charter Amendment to increase settlement authority for the town manager. This is being continued from the first half of the session, as I noted, and then also broaden electronic notice authorization. These were both initiatives that we attempted to get local legislation passed for in the first half of the session, and we were not able to get that passed. It was sort of a unique session, so there's lots of things like this that did not get taken up or passed for lots of municipalities. We're proposing to keep those on as local initiatives to pursue in the second half of this session, unless there is any direction from council otherwise. We also have a section of priority initiatives. Some of these are reworded from the previous version that you have seen, and one of them is a new addition. So the first one has been revised to eliminate some language that we now no longer need, such as references to our ETJ expansion and other wording that takes into consideration action that the legislature has already taken. We have included language here of opposing bills which may impede local government authority over zoning and development, so that municipalities may continue to implement local preferences, protect property values, and ensure a safe quality of life for residents and businesses. So we include that specific language, and for these priority initiatives, we would seek your input just to make sure that you're good with the concept there. And if you have any specific concerns or recommendations on wording, we're happy to hear those as well. But we do think it's important for us to continue to lead our priority initiatives around these topics, because they are often the subject of changes that are proposed at the legislature that have significant impacts on the town and other local governments. We kept our second priority initiative as it was written, to support economic development, job creation, and growth through funding for critical infrastructure, including transportation, water, sewer, and stormwater. Again, staff feels like it's important to include something along these lines. We like this language, but are, of course, open to hearing any recommendations you have for changes to the language. The third item that's a priority that we have is new. We have added support sound state investment strategies that ensure full funding and long-term sustainability of the North Carolina Local Government Employees Retirement System, or ELGERS. And we've added that because there has been some heightened awareness of the sustainability of that retirement system. That retirement system is one of the key tools that enables us to be an employer of choice, especially when we are competing with the non-governmental employers for folks to work for us. So we feel like it is important anytime there is an opportunity to enhance the funding and the management of that system. We think it's important to add that there. So we recommend adding that to our draft legislative agenda for the rest of this session. And then we included our fourth bullet, as it was stated previously, which is to support full funding for public education that will increase academic opportunities for students and support high-quality classrooms and workforce to promote academic achievement. So these are currently the 4 priority initiatives. I'm going to move down and just cover a little bit of the rest and then come back here so we can revisit these. The second portion of our legislative agenda is a general statement as it was written previously to support policies that enable municipalities to create a high quality of life, to provide economic opportunity, and to attract business, residents, and visitors. And currently included here is the North Carolina League of Municipalities 25-26 goals that they adopted at the beginning of this session. At the beginning of this session, we included the League's goals. Throughout the session, we added a few Garner-specific topics to this subsection of supporting policies that enable municipalities to continue its work. But for now, we have the League's goals in this section. And then the rest of the next section is to oppose threats to municipal authority and responsiveness to local issues. We currently have an item that we've repeated from the last version regarding building codes and inspections, and that is to oppose changes to building codes and any interpretations or practices that deviate from the International Codes Council, which weaken municipalities' abilities to ensure that infrastructure and buildings remain reliable and safe. We felt it was important this session to include that type of language because there appeared to be some attempts to make proposals that were said to be helping solve the affordable housing crisis, but it was trying to solve them by loosening the way that we provide building inspections and ensuring the safety of those so that they could be built faster. And while we are supportive of we're supportive of strategies to enhance affordable housing, we don't think it's appropriate to have a strategy for affordable housing that really could harm and lessen the safety of anything that's being built. So we've repeated that again from this year under a subheading of building codes and inspections. So that is currently the language that is on our draft. So we wanted to share this with you today to let you know what we're thinking about, get any initial feedback that you may have on local initiatives and priority initiatives. And if you had anything else specific that would fall under our topics to support or topics to oppose, we're happy to hear those as well. So I'll pause there and see if there are any questions and any comments from the council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hodges. I'd like to say that one of our big strengths here in this council with this varied backgrounds, different talents, is that our members have varied areas of expertise, whether it's building codes, whether it's affordable housing, all the different things that impinge on the legislature. And our members have different circles of resources and contacts. So I just want to encourage all of our members to continue to make their contributions in that way with ideas, topics, and ways to get things done. We have a great resource here. Don't forget to channel this through Assistant Town Manager Hodges and our official liaison with the legislature, who I don't think we've introduced yet.
No, we have not. So, yes, sir.
Kick it back to you, John.
So, yes, and thank you. Sam Bridges, who assists us with our relationship building at the legislature, is here with us today as well so that he could hear any questions and comments you have about the legislative agenda, so he can hear that. So as we continue to work on this and refine that, he's been able to hear your thoughts and input as we draft our legislative agenda.
Thank you. And with that, I'll start with Mr. Matthews this time for questions and comments and work our way through.
No questions. Excellent presentation. Thank you for the update. It's always a work in progress.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Behringer.
I really like the list of priority initiatives, and I'm drawn to the last one, support full funding for public education. for many, many decades, our school systems in North Carolina have lagged behind other states in the nation. I've never really understood why, but I think that it's very, very important for us to get behind that and not back up, because we need to go forward with our public education.
Thank you. And Mr. Dellinger, I'm going to pretend that you're virtually in your seat, and you would be next if you would like to make any comments or questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a question about I saw it on the League of Municipalities goals, and I see it sort of reiterated in ours, and that related to changing the annexation threshold, and kind of would want some feedback either now or later on whether we should be supporting that, and is there any specific benefit to garner to pursue that?
Okay, we will provide some feedback, Mr. Dellinger, on that. We'll get some additional information from the league and bring that back at a future conversation to discuss that further, if that would be okay.
Yeah, just a follow-up. Is there sort of any immediate benefit to garner that for that type of change?
I'm not aware that there is any. I think in general, when these were adopted, we felt like that we could generally support everything that was in the league's goals, and so we supported them in whole and did not separate any of them out. So I'm not aware of anything specific that we honed in on for that one for Garner, but we can definitely get some more background from them and discuss that further with you.
Thank you so much.
Good, yes. Again, this is such a great opportunity for all of our council members to be thinking about this. What other questions should we be asking? Who do we know? What do we know? What areas of expertise do we have? Mr. Vance, questions or comments?
Yes, I keyed in on priority initiative number 2, support economic development and et cetera. I'm looking at it from the position of, as the town continue to grow, that we'll be looking at resources to assist us in the areas of infrastructure and also possibly working with our legislators and others to help us move certain initiatives forward because of the uniqueness of the economic development situation we have going on now. I'm glad to see that's number 2 as one of our priority initiatives that we have up here, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you. And Mr. Hodges, one of the notes I had made earlier in preparation for this meeting was I understand that probably you and Mr. Bridges will be coming back to council in January. This was a preview. We'll come back for a more detailed update of what's going on, the answers to questions and suggestions you've heard here this evening. I believe it's on our calendar to talk about this again in January.
Yes, sir, and we'll confer and see if January is still the best time to do it, given that this probably would not be being used until a little bit later in the spring. So we'll look at the calendar and see if January, with other priorities that you have, is the best time, or if there's a better time to bring that back. But there definitely will be another time that we'll bring this back to council before we remove the draft watermark off of it and start sharing it with our legislative delegation.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any other questions from council or comments? Hearing none. Thank you again, Mr. Hodges.
All right,
Thank you for being
Mr. Mayor, one final thing I'll leave you with for your benefit as well as anyone who may be watching. There are some additional details on the league's goals that are attached to the agenda. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about some of the things that the league is included in their goals, there's some additional detail attached to the agenda, such as some of the specificity around the question Mr. Dellinger asked about and how that they're seeing how they would recommend enacting that change to the annexation petition.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And that's your homework assignment, council. Keep thinking of ideas, keep thinking of topics that we want to explore more as we prepare for our next round of conversation in January or February or when it fits. Thank you. And that brings us to section E, which is updates to council, and we get to pass this along to our town manager for some updates.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. Just a preview looking ahead to your December meetings. First, just a reminder that we typically do not have a work session in December, and we do not have our first meeting in January. Council has been gracious enough to let us move into the new year, starting our meetings in the middle of January, so staff gets a little time off during the holidays, and so we appreciate that. But looking ahead to your first meeting in December as December 2nd, this is going to be your organizational meeting. This meeting is really going to be focused on recognizing Councilmember Behringer and all of her years of service, as well as administering the oaths of office for our new council members, selecting the mayor pro tem, and then any discussion that council wants to have on the appointments to the council committees, your rules and procedures, and code of ethics policies as well. So this will be a time to get organized as we close out the calendar year and move forward to the new year. We also have a closed session for that evening as well. Looking ahead to your December 16th meeting, regular meeting, we have the FY25 audit will be presented to council. We'll have our auditors here to make the presentation, answer any questions that council has. We have a few items on the consent agenda. One is annexation of Old Stage Road property. And then also, as we go into 2026, council needs to adopt your meeting calendar as well as the holiday calendar for the town as well. Under public hearings, the Arden Development Agreement you see there is tentative. They have withdrawn that public hearing, and so we will not be having that public hearing in December. Just the Tier 1 and Tier 2 rezonings, one for Quality Oil and then rock quarry assemblage. Under new old business, we've got quite a few items to cover. We'll be looking at the Arden subdivision rezoning. We'll also be looking at bylaws for two of your advisory committees. One is the Veterans Advisory Committee, but also the proposal for creating the Public Arts Advisory Committee and some proposed bylaws for that group. As directed by council, we'll be bringing forth some information and recommendations coming from the Affordable Housing Task Force on creating an affordable housing position, the recommendation for that, as well as if council decides to move forward and approve that, a budget amendment will be part of that agenda so that council can take action and amend the budget to allow funding for that resource to move forward. And then also talking about signature authority resolution to provide some clarity on things that staff can sign on behalf of the town and things that the council and the mayor need to sign specifically. And then under reports, we have your monthly Talk of the Town report, and then we'll be previewing your January meetings as well. So that's a quick preview of your December meetings. I'm happy to answer any questions that council has.
Any questions, comments from council? Hearing none, we'll move right ahead.
Second item under manager reports this afternoon is the development activity map update. And is Ms. Joseph available? I'll ask her to come up. Or Mr. Triesenberg? Yes, sir.
Yes, so I know that the council here heard you in reference to comments. Mr. Dillinger was allowed the opportunity if he had any comments on the agenda.
Oh,
On the
I was watching this little icon.
Okay,
over
so you're
here,
good to
but
go.
Let me
All right.
double check. Mr. Dellinger, did you have any questions or comments so far?
No comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Always better to double check than to be overlooked.
yes, sir.
Mr. Triesenberg.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. I don't feel like this. There we go.
Okay.
Let me just shift over here to the map. We have two new projects that are showing up on the map since last month. Just to bring your awareness to, they are both on Timber Drive in the general vicinity of Vandora Springs. The first one that I'll point to is entitled Timber Drive Woodland Mixed Use. This is a small project. Both of these parcels are zoned neighborhood mixed use general. And both of the proposals are coming in under that provision that the uses are currently permitted in the existing neighborhood mixed use district. So this first one is, again, a proposed two building project. One that they have identified on the corner as a specialty grocery store, and then the other one as flexible retail space. So you'll see the two buildings. This is the corner of Vandora and Timber, so the grocery store building would be prominently situated there on the corner with the parking behind and to the side. The stormwater feature will be tucked into the back of the property with some pretty
decent-sized buffers around the perimeter against the adjacent uses. Parking again, as noted, in the middle. So that is currently in plan review with staff. So if you do have any questions on this project, just let us know, and we can refer you to the case manager for that project. The second one is the Timber Thompson commercial parcel. So again, this is the triangular shaped piece at the intersection of Timber Drive and Thompson Road, fire station and the school. Over here to the plan left. So again, here you'll see a 3-building layout. They have identified for uses a daycare, some existing retail or some flexible retail space, as well as office space for the uses. Again, featuring one building a little more prominently up towards the corner. I believe this is the one that they've identified for the daycare, and another building over here as well. So again, you see the access points are right in, right out onto Timber, full access out here onto Thompson, opposite the school EMS driveways over here. So again, these are by right requests and are in review with staff. So again, if you do have additional questions on either of these projects, just let us know and we'll get you in touch with the project manager. And I'm happy to answer any questions if I can.
Council members? Hearing none, full speed ahead,
I-
sir. Oh, Mr.
I
Dellinger?
have
Yeah.
I have one question. The Thompson Road Timber Drive project, I know there had been some restrictions on development further down Thompson Road. Does this alleviate any of those or not with that driveway there?
Not yet. There would have to be further connection to the south into where some of that residential development already exists. So it doesn't help the issue. It also doesn't hurt it since it has access to both roads on its own.
Okay, and for both of these projects, they both fall within that Timber Drive overlay for the 25-foot buffer, is that correct?
Yes, where they have the choice of either the build to line with that buffer or the setback with the other buffer. One I think is 25 feet and the other is 35, but yes, both are in the overlay.
All right, thank you.
All right, those are all the manager reports for this afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Triesenberg. Any additional questions from council?
Hearing none, let's move along to attorney report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No report this evening or this afternoon.
Okay, well, I bet we have some council reports of some kind or another. Let's start with Mr. Matthews and we'll work our way down.
Nothing this time. The veterans thing updated on the last meeting, so we don't have anything to add to it at this time.
Okay, Ms. Behringer?
Yes, sir, I have a couple of things. I have been receiving some comments from citizens about the trash pickup and how trash cans are not being put properly on the side of the street, that they are being turned over. Particularly, I've got a complaint from, or I think we all did, from the folks in the village, off of Aversboro Road, that it's very difficult for some of those senior citizens to bend over and pick up the trash can, but they're not being left upright. And I know on the street I live on, quite frequently, there is trash that falls out of the trash can as they're emptying it, and it's not picked up. So, and also have a question about how early in the morning they can be out. My understanding was 7 o'clock was the beginning of the free time to be out, and we hear the trash trucks coming out before 6 o'clock. And so, don't know if that's a bad thing. We just hear the noise. Second thing is that I had a individual contact me, I believe it was Sunday, telling me she was walking down Main Street outside of Shady's, and there were two individuals from the halfway house on Rand Mill Road sitting in front of Shady's drinking, and she thought there was some illegal behavior there. She was concerned. Did you hear about that, Chris? Okay. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Dellinger.
And Mayor, before we get to Mr. Dellinger, Ms. Behringer, we'll follow up with you regarding the trash can issue and concern. So if we can identify which streets directly, we will follow up with our contractor on that to make sure that they're putting them back correctly.
Thank you. People notice how their trash is picked up, don't they?
They do.
It's quite personal in many ways.
And sometimes, sadly, I know these men are in a hurry and they've got a big job to do, but sometimes those containers are left out in the street. And that's not what we were told would happen.
We're seeking the balance between speed and quality. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that. And without further ado, Mr. Dellinger.
No reports, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Vance.
Yes, just want to say that on December 1st starting at 3 o'clock, the Affordable Housing Task Force will meet in the upstairs training room. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, and that concludes the items that we have listed on our agenda. If we don't have any other business that needs addressing or news that needs to be spread, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Vance and second by Mr. Matthews. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you. Thank you for all our
Happy
loyal
Thanksgiving,
followers
everybody.
here. Yes, all of our loyal followers here and on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you.